Hello and welcome to the Road to Autonomy. The Road to Autonomy is brought to you in part by Stantec Generation AV. Stantec Generation AV combines some of the most experienced AV experts in the industry with the resources of a global engineering firm. Stantec Generation AV provides education, consulting, assessment, and guidance to any industry interested in autonomous vehicles. Learn more at stantec.com. Hello and welcome to the Road to Autonomy. I'm your host, Grayson Brulte. On today's episode, we're absolutely honored to have Wouter Witvoet, CEO EVT Group. Wouter, welcome to the podcast, sir.
Thanks so much for having me.
I'm super excited to have you here because MOKEs are cool. I repeat, MOKEs are cool. They're a wonderful, iconic brand. And EVT is the largest shareholder of MOKE International. You're revitalizing this brand and you're doing the coolest thing. You're making it electric. For our listeners who might not be familiar with the MOKE was made famous in Saint-Tropez by Brigitte Bardot. So, Wouter, how are you planning to reinvigorate this iconic brand with a wonderful history?
What's really great about the MOKE is that it doesn't really need so much reinvigorating. Like, people love MOKE. Like, this car just basically brings a smile, on my face every time I see one on the street or when you drive one. So what's really great about what we're doing with MOKE is that if you compare us to other EV companies, they have to do two things that are really hard. You have to A, build the brand, and then B, you have to build a car. Like, both of those things are A, expensive, and B, are hard to do. What we're effectively doing at EV Technology Group with the MOKE brand is that we take a lot of this excitement that exists around this brand, a lot of the following that is there, and just creating an electric version of this that is effectively suitable for today's age, which is very much an electric age.
I want to give you a lot of credit because you did not make the classic mistake of, here's an iconic brand, let's redesign it. You have the same iconic MOKE style. I'll give you an example. So you're a self-proclaimed petrol head. You love cars. You look at what Land Rover did with the Defender. They had the iconic Defender and they completely modernized it. And then here you on the MOKE side, you said, no, we're going to keep the iconic shape and we're going to electrify it. Why did you make the decision to respect the heritage of the MOKE brand?
I think every strategy that you're doing, which is effectively restarting the brand or making it suitable for today, you have to start at a point where it was familiar for people. If you're suddenly redesigning it and putting a new car on the market, that loses that sort of iconic touch. So I think here's where you have to start. Now, that doesn't mean that you cannot evolve the MOKE product range to develop other types of product that keep some of that iconic design, but maybe have different types of features or different sort of cars in the market. But I think it just always has to start where the brand left off.
Well said. If you look to the future, a 6-seater MOKE, that could work very well in the resort communities where they're typically found.
I think a 6-seater also when you are, so I'm in Saint-Tropez at the moment with our flagship store actually, and delivery vehicles that can maybe take some groceries here and there to and from villas, for the concierges, for the grocery deliveries at your villa, at your house. I think those all are types of products that could naturally flow from this first electric MOKE that we're coming out with this summer.
So you're coming out with the electric MOKE, you're in Saint-Tropez. Saint-Tropez, it has a vision. People go there for the vision. They go there for the experience. It's very simple. You don't want delivery guys showing up in a jalopy. They show up in a MOKE. Oh, this is the Saint-Tropez experience. Then for your customers, they can charge a premium for that. You're working with several of the home leasing companies there in Saint-Tropez as we get ready to go into the Saint-Tropez summer season. What is their expectations of how they're going to integrate MOKE into those services that they offer their customers?
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. Like in Saint-Tropez, you're coming here for an experience. You're not coming because you need to be in Saint-Tropez. In the same logic, you drive a MOKE because you want to drive in a MOKE, not because it is necessarily the best car to go from A to B. It's about an experience. And I think when people, have their holidays here, you want to portray, in terms of your own brand, you want to portray something that you fit within that community. This is why organizations such as Bauhaus, which is focusing on the luxury rental villas, and Tardieu Immobilier, which very similarly focus on that, want to associate themselves with the brand as MOKE. And we have many partnership interests that, of course, flow from these initial announcements that we made.
As you're going in the higher end of the market, Saint-Tropez has a lot of gorgeous properties. I have to give a shout out to the Cheval Blanc in Saint-Tropez, extremely well managed. And Bernard Arnault Job well done, sir, the way that you're managing that brand. Will you eventually expand MOKE into partnerships with some of the leading hotels around the Central Pay region?
I think that very much makes sense to associate yourself with luxury, but also with surfer brands, with beach style brands that exist out there, because that's effectively the lifestyle that you want to associate yourself with. So we'll be for sure looking at some of those opportunities in the area.
And looking at other opportunities, I like this. You're respecting heritage brands. I want to say you're respecting heritage brands, but you're also looking to the future. You recently announced the electric MOKE subscription plan for €650 per month. You're launching in Central Pay this summer. Why a subscription? What did you see in the market? Was it your customer said, we don't want the friction, we just want to pay one fee and enjoy the MOKE?
So it's very much driven in two fronts. One is effectively the ease of sale, right? €650 per month is easy. You get it. It's organized by and all handled by EVT Group. That is a very attractive proposition. Now, there's also a financial element to this, which is the second part, which is these MOKEs, they keep their value. Like, I'm really convinced that even if you look at the secondhand market, like older MOKEs from the older generation that were produced since 1964, I mean, they pretty much have held their value throughout their life cycle. And I think with electric, in many cases, this will also be the case. So what that effectively means is that this can be a continuous revenue generating asset that has very little depreciation, which is why from a financial point of view, this is a very interesting business model for us to develop. And in the future, we will seek financing partners for this that would want to continue on the journey with us.
What will the average term of the lease be?
So currently it's 36 months. So it's a 3-year contract that people have, that initial customers have signed up for. But we'll offer short-term rental for the season as well, of course, at different types of price points.
It'd be really interesting if you're looking to the future. Porsche Passport, which was the Porsche subscription service, which was tested in Atlanta, Georgia, here in the United States, where for, say, $3,000 a month, $5,000 a month, every week you can get a different Porsche. So if you wanted to go out on the weekend, you can have a 911. If you want to take the kids to school, you can have a Cayenne. As you introduce new brands to EVT, that'd be really neat. So you have an EVT subscription, okay? I'm in Central Pay for the summer. I'm in Palm Beach for the winter. And then the subscription travels with you. That'd be really neat. Then you have all the assets located in those strategic regions. Am I onto something here?
Well, I think there's a spot open for a chief strategy officer, as you rightfully pointed out. No, but I think this is exactly the type of models that we want to innovate on and have at EV Technology Group. It's about just having an access to an EV wherever you go. And companies also such as Pivotal in Europe have been, of course, been successful doing this with Range Rover and another type of model. So this is very much the path that we're going exactly.
When you look at your customers don't like friction. They want ease of use. They want to get in the vehicle. It's fully charged. If you look at the EV market globally, it's not just Europe or the United States. You're seeing this globally. You're seeing it in Asia as well, where there is a global phenomenon of chargers being broken. A consumer goes there in their vehicle, that the charger's broken. They have to go to another charger. As you roll out the MOKE subscription plan, will charging be a part of that subscription? So when your customer wants to go to the experience, not like, oh, broken charger. Oh, not charged.
Initially, it won't be. We've engineered the MOKE so that it can be charged in 3 hours in your house on a normal socket, up to 80% of a full battery, which is effectively around 120 kilometers of range. So if you think about it, like for the MOKE, like 120 kilometers of range is probably enough for more than a day's worth of driving in a MOKE, because it's usually smaller distances. But as you pointed out, for EVTG as a group, that is something we're going to look at. Like, I think that charging infrastructure has been an oversold investment idea because it's like simple. And I think that will become a more of a commodity. The multiples will just go down and be compressed in that over time. What we're more focused on is like what will be very strategic and will always have value, which is really sitting in those iconic brands, that brand equity that I can invest in and continue to build up over time.
As you build the brand equity, your customers that are paying for that, they want the experience. How will you ensure that iconic, wonderful experience every single time for your customers?
So a lot of that is basically started with the Casa MOKE that we're building out in Saint-Tropez that is going to be ready for the summer, which is it's much more than just the car. It's about the history and portraying that, having that sort of customer experience, really being in a house. And you may even go there with your car to have a coffee or to chat, not for the purpose of just buying a car. And that's very, very much something that we, if and when that is successful in France, is a concept that we would then seek to export to other key geographies that will have that same sort of customer experience, but localized. Like the Greece market in Mykonos is not the exact same market as in Saint-Tropez, and it doesn't have the same history. So you need to find those local elements that make a brand attractive for that population.
The thing I love about Saint-Tropez, it's colorful. It's not just the beautiful homes downtown in the port. You have a great brand that I'm a huge fan of, Villebrequin. They're the iconic photo of the father and the son jumping off the dock. And this is the Saint-Tropez brand. You went to Saint-Tropez because you could certain Villebrequins were only available in the Saint-Tropez store. Yes, I'm that guy that went to Saint-Tropez to get those certain shorts, and I still have them. They're still going strong. Will you offer Saint-Tropez exclusives for kind of building on the heritage of what Villebrequin did with the prints?
Yeah, this is very much in terms of our merchandising strategy. So when you like, some companies did this really, really well. Of course, Villebrequin is one example. Even it's less about an iconic brand, but Starbucks does this really well, right? People collect the Starbucks coffee cups from all over the world. And this is something that we're developing on, for example, merchandise around towels and etc., where you have local merchandise that you can only get in a certain location.
In other words, you're building a brand.
That's what we're absolutely doing with MOKE. It was already, like, of course, a very strong brand, but I think we're taking this now to the next level in terms of really bringing that into the electric age. And these are the type of things you would do to build a brand.
You're taking it to the next level. You're making it a lifestyle. So here I'm in Palm Beach, Florida. There's a Lilly Pulitzer car that's wrapped for Lilly Pulitzer, the iconic Palm Beach brand. That'd be really neat to see if you're in Saint-Tropez. So perhaps you have a Villebrequin print on one of your vehicles. Or if you go to Mykonos, you have a Greek artist that does a painting on there, and you kind of really integrate there. Or if you went all out and you go to Art Basel in Miami, perhaps you have a new emerging artist from South America to design it. It seems that you're putting all the pieces together where someone says, I want to be associated with that brand. Is that what you're seeing in your research as you build the MOKE brand?
Yes, it's a lifestyle, and it's also an image thing. Like if you're sitting in the port in Saint-Tropez, for example, at Seneca, any typical summer day, you'll have two types of person that will sort of drive down the port. The first type will be in a Lamborghini Huracan with the roof down, basically. And the other person is the person that drives the MOKE, that's just having fun. And I think it's a very different sort of personality that drives the MOKE, which is the sort of lifestyle that we're trying to create with the MOKE brand.
If you look at Aristotle Onassis, Greek shipping tycoon, he drove the Jolly, and he's got that big smile on his face. Is there a partnership with Stellantis sometime down the future where you'll take so you got the iconic MOKE from Saint-Tropez, you have the Jolly from the Greek islands, and kind of put it all together?
We will for sure pick up the phone if that's a conversation they want to have. I'm not going to lie. I think you're absolutely right. And this is also something where we see interest from OEMs without going to be too specific, but we see a lot of interest where it may not be their top focus from a volume perspective, because OEMs are all about volume, but they want to build out that brand and show that they're taking care of their icons. And I think that is a very interesting strategy, of course, within EVTG that we would be interested in taking on, either as a partnership or JVs in the future. I think there's a lot of interest there from the market side.
Well, Wouter, I can tell you we have several listeners from Stellantis. So if there's somebody from the brand team of Stellantis, please get in touch with Wouter. I will be your first customer to purchase an all-electric Jolly. I want one. So get in touch with Wouter and reinvent history. It's an iconic piece of Fiat history. It might not be a large seller, but at least you sold one, and I'll be your first customer here. Wouter, and I want to point something out which is extremely important. People Magazine, all the stuff. Oh, MOKE in America. It's actually not the real MOKE. It's a replica. It's a replica, and the replica can only go 25 miles an hour. They're not real MOKEs. And the electric MOKEs that you're developing, they can go 62 miles an hour, the real MOKEs. As you bring, quote unquote, the real MOKE brand into America, how do you differentiate it from the replica that's currently available?
Yeah, I think what's important is that MOKE is the owner of the original trademark, which of course means that it's the real MOKE. And I think how we differentiate ourselves, like for me, it's all about experience. Like if you look at the existing counterfeit MOKE that exists in the market, like you pointed out, it's slow, it's imported from China, it's not safe. There's been some issues there. It can't really go up a hill. So setting aside the brand, the quality is really not there. And I think people will soon realize that effectively we have a fully homologated vehicle that has been tested as safe for the road. It has a real license plate. You can drive it on the road. And then like we discussed already earlier, it's all about the experience, right? And here's where the key differentiator comes: how you handle the customer, how you handle delivery, what is the end-to-end customer experience, because it's not just about the car, it's about how people feel about that brand and how you deliver that both in an online world and in an offline world. So getting that combo right is key.
I want to point out, I've driven the replica MOKE. It has no torque. It can't pass a car. It is not very well engineered. So you're engineering a great product. You're coming here into America and you want to drive a MOKE because you want that experience. You want to feel the wind. You want that look. Oh, that's cool. What's that? Even when I drove the replica, I got that. And you know, the same thing going back to early days of electrification, it was if you were an owner for Tesla Roadster, you got, oh, wow, what's that? That's cool. But the Tesla Roadster was well manufactured and it went faster than 25 miles an hour. It went 0 to 25 in 0.02 seconds. It's going to be really interesting to see as you bring a well-engineered product to the market. So you see there's certain celebrities that own the replica MOKEs. They put them on their TikTok. They put them on their Instagram. Me as a lover and appreciator of brands, has that caused any brand damage to the original MOKE brand?
I think you're, of course, very well informed in terms of the market, so you understand the difference. I think the job that we have to do is just play that narrative continuously about the benefits of course, having the real MOKE because it's safe, well engineered, and etc. And I think with celebrities, it's always really interesting because they would never like to be associated with a fake Louis Vuitton bag, but that's effectively what's been happening right now. So for any of those listeners, again, we would be happy to of course make a good deal on getting a real MOKE into their hands.
Yeah, you're right about the Louis Vuitton bag is a great example. It's the knockoff bag that you bought in a corner in New York City for $100, or it's the bag you went and paid $4,000 for. It's not the same bag. Anybody that owns Louis Vuitton products, they last for years and years and years. The fake bags fall apart, and if you understand the brand, you know the little nuances. So that's going to be really helpful as you get here, and I'm gunning for it. Hopefully you can get a partnership with Louis Vuitton Moet Hennessy, who owns the Cheval Blanc, owns stores, the great brand, go Mr. Arnault. So as you introduce the brand back into the North American market, what do you want it to represent in the market? Do you want people to say, aha, that's that lifestyle brand? So if you're out in Malibu, California, oh, that's that surfer brand. If you're down here in Palm Beach, that's an iconic Palm Beach brand. What do you want MOKE to represent in the market?
Yeah, I think it's very much that association with like a free lifestyle. Like if you have a MOKE, then something must be good in your life, because it's not the everyday car. It's a car that you want to drive, but you don't need it. So it will always be a form of a luxury purchase. But then what is it that you're going to do with it? Many people will most likely go to the beach, or they're enjoying some kind of other leisure activity. So it's really trying to associate MOKE with that part of life, which is good. And I think a lot of our materials, partnerships, and go-to-market strategy will focus on that, especially as it pertains to the US.
I'll tell you two things I really want to do with my new MOKE. I want to drop my daughter off at school, because that would be the coolest thing in the world. She'll oh yeah, look at my daddy's toy. Well, soon it'll be your toy. And then I want to take it to the golf course. And very simple. And I want to live that MOKE lifestyle. You're getting ready. We're going into the summer season here in Saint-Tropez. We're coming out of a global pandemic. If you look at the travel numbers and the spending from MasterCard, especially with 40+% coming from international volumes, look at the American Express earnings. Consumers are spending on experiences, and they're spending on international travel. What sort of demand are you seeing in the Saint-Tropez market for this all-new MOKE, and people are ready to spend this summer?
I think what's been phenomenal is the reception has been great. It's just not just the WhatsApp groups of my friends that, of course, I have all motivated to go and buy a MOKE and have been very supportive and love to see this product in the market. But it's also, you're absolutely right. We're coming out of this pandemic. People want to go and do something fun. It's arguably the first summer where we have many of the restrictions that were still there last summer completely removed. And people are ready to spend money. We have all this cheap capital in our economy that is sitting there waiting to spend it on the first sort of summer out of COVID. And I think that will be a catalyst for also our success as you look to these luxury, the luxury segment.
So let's say you use summer 22 Saint-Tropez as that catalyst. Then how will you expand the MOKE brand? Will you go into, in the winter, will you go into St. Bart's, or how are you planning on expanding the brand?
There's all kinds of ideas, of course, also what you can do even in the winter, in winter destinations. But for sure, St. Bart's and other geographies where it's still warm will be core markets for us as well. But there's no reason you can't have a snow moke in Megève if you're talking about France. Like it is, how annoying has it been to get to your chalet in the car, getting everything dirty? You're in your nice clothes anyways. You're warm, so you really need some transport down the road. So those are all, and those things will of course also work in the snow areas of the United States where people tend to ski.
I'd love to take it around Aspen. Have you snow tested the new MOKE yet?
I think in order for that to be fully functional, I think you always would want to have like a 4x4. So those are some easy fixes. As electric, it's slightly easier to implement these changes than with petrol engines. So those are definitely something that we would look at as we bring that to market.
As you expand into new markets, will you add new experiences that are just tailored to those markets? I'll give you an example. Moncler, the jacket manufacturer, clothing line, they would do pop-ups in Aspen, Hong Kong, Miami, New York City, and you can only get a certain jacket at that store. They would never tell you, like, drops, very similar to Supreme. They would do this drop. Will you do these MOKE experiences tailored just to that region and kind of say, okay, you can only have this MOKE experience in this region or that region?
Without giving too much away, those are some of the things we are coming out with in Saint-Tropez to really test that. I think our thesis is that if you're talking about a luxury brand, if you're talking about experiences, you need to launch a car in a market with a certain activity that is locally for that market and giving people that experience. So this is a series of events that we will be announcing in Saint-Tropez, which will be very much sort of the test bed. And we'll take the learnings from that to Miami, to Scottsdale, to LA, etc.
Shifting to the EVT level of the company, what is the strategy as the business expands?
So what we're looking for is a couple of key areas. So our business primarily consists of the strategic iconic brands. Then we have secondly the manufacturing of these brands, and then we have the distribution. Obviously, in MOKE, we have our first distribution in France, and we own MOKE. What we're critically looking at is like what other iconic brands would fit that brand portfolio, number one, and then also which strategic manufacturing acquisitions or investments do we need to make in order to realize and make sure that our brands are successful and that we can build them out. I think what you see a lot in the market is everyone and their mom suddenly has an idea about building an EV, but that's a concept from a design and engineering perspective is very different from actually manufacturing it and then deliver it into customer hands, which is, if you start with that the branding is right, you still need to get the manufacturing, distribution, all the things that are also critical. You need to get that part of the equation right as well.
One part of the equation, it's 101 days from goods to come from Asia to North America now because of supply chain backup. You're running an automotive company here with EVT. How are you preparing for the supply chain issues that are predicted? Goldman Sachs is saying can go to 23 or even 24.
Yeah, so supply chain impacts everyone. I think that is what we're seeing across the supply chain effectively. But what is good about EV Technology Group, at least with our first investment in MOKE, is we're not producing 1 million MOKEs per year. You're still at the sort of luxury, in the luxury segment. So you're having smaller series. Plus, our vehicle is much less complicated than maybe some of the sort of complicated cars that are coming out with all kinds of entertainment systems and navigation and etc. So for our first sort of MOKE, that is of course helping us in having a reduced risk in that supply chain. But that also means we are looking from an EVTG perspective strategically at like what would be good for us to own rather than have as a supplier. So you can lock in that amount. And I think the entire industry is doing this.
You're right. The larger companies, like you're looking at owning mines, manufacturing their own chips, because you have to control your own destiny. And from an investment standpoint, how many legacy brands would you estimate are out there that are ripe for investment in electrification? Is there ones that Wouter's wish list, hit list, investment list that you're going to go out there? What's that look like?
Yeah, with the team, we of course this analysis, and I think we stopped at like 100 or something, more than 100. But what is more important is like, through what lens do you look at these brands? Because there are, of course, a lot of brands, and many of them are UK based, which is still a legacy from the Second World War, where there were a lot of airfields being built by the US military, which later on turned into racetracks, turned into car manufacturers. So there's a lot of these opportunities, but the key thing that the team and I are looking at, like, is there still a following? Is this still a brand that people chat about, whether it's on Reddit or other forums? Are there owners clubs? Are there people that are restoring old cars of this brand? Which will give you an indication to, which is of course one of our key points of our investment thesis, that if I build a car for this brand, I will naturally have demand on the other side. And that's what we're trying to test with all of these brands. So that methodology is very important.
Are there any iconic brands that are on the short list that you've got your eye on? You say, I'm going to make a move here.
There's absolutely those brands on that list, and those discussions are ongoing.
All right. So how about this then? When you make an acquisition of one of those brands, you electrify it, you come back and you tell the story of how you got it. How's that sound?
That sounds great. Hopefully we have some more stories to tell from some of those negotiations.
There we go. And then we'll record it in a MOKE. Maybe I'll make a video, and then we'll have the total brand put together. We've talked a lot about brands today, and I've said this for as long as I can remember. People thought I was crazy. Now they're coming around to that brands will define the future of mobility. The future of mobility will be built around experiences and brands. As you're out there investing in iconic brands, electrifying them, what are your thoughts on how brands will define the future of mobility?
I think if you think about it, if you are a petrol head, like I am, you love cars and you love driving them because what you had is basically a ref counter. So a car went vroom vroom, and if you're in Europe, you usually had a stick, right? Because we like our sticks, which for me is really that's what driving is. What's a shame of the electrification, which is something that we all need to solve for, is that element completely goes away. So there's two elements that are left, which I think are going to be core to convincing people to buy your car, which is A, the brand and the design and the emotive feeling you have from interacting with a product. And then I think B, it's also the software interaction, like the actual interaction of you with the vehicle and making sure that is absolutely streamlined. Because especially today's sort of generation that buys cars is increasingly looking at it through the lens, and is used to smartphones and iPads and etc., which is very different from the 1960s, of course, and 70s, 80s, etc. So I think those elements will be critical.
It's the whole package. It's the brand, what it stands for. It's the design. It's the software. Because you can't have the old days where the software would update in the vehicle and you had to go and shop. People don't want that. You have to integrate it. And Elon, what he's doing at Tesla, has completely changed the market for over-the-air updates. So from your perspective, how do you see the market for iconic automotive brands that become electrified growing? Do you see this as a growth market? And I want to say this, because I've said this a lot. There's riches and niches, and you seem to be on that same train.
Absolutely. We from an EVTG perspective, like that's what we believe. I think it's a niche market, but it's a growing market. And niche in automotive, you're still talking usually about big numbers, which is a good thing. And I think similar to what we discussed before, I think if you do find a brand such as a MOKE or something else, it usually starts with kind of where the brand left off. But if you execute it well, you can get into that growth phase. If you look, for example, what Geely did with Lotus, like they very first created, of course, the Emira, which is a continuation of the existing models. But then now suddenly they have developed the Electra SUV, which 10 years ago someone would never see. But what they've done really, really well is they've started with evolving what is already there and gradually making the transition to electric, and then suddenly came out with a product that now people think, actually that could work. And I think very much that we would see that along a similar type of product development life cycle as you think about what to release in the market.
I love the line, start where the brand left off. There's the iconic Slim Aaron's photos featuring Jollies and MOKEs from around the world. And you're taking the Slim Aaron's story, you're bringing it into the future, and you're electrifying. Because where the Slim Aaron's story ends, the EVT MOKE story starts. And Wouter, as we look to wrap up this super insightful conversation, and personal note, thanks for bringing back the MOKE brand. What would you like the listeners to take away with them today?
I think one of the key things to take away is that what we're really doing differently here at EV Technology Group is we're taking existing iconic brands and making them electric. And I think what I've sort of learned as well is that building cars is like extremely hard. So having like that integrated group from us where you have both the iconic brands, but also have the capabilities internally to deliver them through these experiences such as a Casa MOKE, I think are gonna be instrumental in relaunching this brand. And we would love to have people over in either our stores or online and share more with you about our next acquisition that we discussed.
If a listener wants to purchase a MOKE, learn more about Casa MOKE, where can they go?
For the moment, they can go to MOKEinternational.com, and our website is evtgroup.com to learn more about the group as a whole.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Because the future is bright, the future is autonomous, and the future is electrifying iconic brands. Wouter, thank you so much for coming on the Road to Autonomy today.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Road to Autonomy podcast. If you've enjoyed listening, please rate, review, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. Want to get in touch? Follow us on Twitter @Road to Autonomy or email podcast@brulteco.com. The Road to Autonomy is produced by Brulte & Company. The views and opinions expressed on the Road to Autonomy podcast do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of Brulte & Company. The content discussed on this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be taken as legal, tax, investment, or business advice.